and take and actually move their business and grow their business in the right form that it needs to be.
Well, I'm happy to, share my wisdom, and I'll tell everybody that's listening, Rob, no matter what business you're in, no matter what service that you're providing, you're actually in the customer service business. And so you're in the customer service business and you happen to clean carpets. You're in the customer service business and you happen to get rid of my bed bugs. And so if customer service isn't the forefront of what it is that you're providing, you're not going to be in business for very long.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think it's like, I hate to say this, but it's something that you can capitalize upon just giving good customer service today. I don't understand how we've gotten this way in society. I talk about that in the book I'm writing about, when we wanted to find out if somebody was good at something, you would ask a neighbor, a friend, a family member years ago. Well, those days are kind of tough today. Now everything's done social, so you can find out information online from a variety of people you don't even know, probably somebody you will never know. But getting the information from people about how somebody can trust the job you're doing is just one part of it. But when you're in the home, which is a lot of people do listen to our podcast, when you're there doing a job at a customer's home or a business, and you have frontline people that are out there doing a job, and just say they got a great experience on the phone, the CRM or the customer service process or intake process was good, but the crew gets out there and they're just like, what? I don't want to do this. And it changes the whole dynamic of it. And I think that culture of inconsistency has become more imperative probably today than ever. I just want to have some of your thoughts. Obviously, you said before you had worked with service businesses, you'd work with people in the limousine. It's the same trade because you're going in doing a job for somebody, you're taking a limousine, whatever that happens to be. What are some of the things you can see that you're seeing right now going into 2021 that have changed the view of customer service or the expectations, should I say, of customer service?
Yeah, well, I think, to play off of your podcast, service without excuses, I think COVID is a very convenient excuse for companies to use as to why they can't provide great customer service. And so while these are unprecedented times, that doesn't mean that we can kind of use that as a reason for why we're not doing something or not communicating. And, I call BS on that because I think that um, you have to make accommodations for life, whatever life throws at you. And there's no reason not to provide great customer service. And there's every reason to provide great customer service. And, you and I and everybody who's listening, Rob, are customers ourselves. And we are willing to pay more for a good experience, which stands to reason that our customers are also willing to pay more for a good experience. So why wouldn't you do everything in your power to delight that customer so that they will refer you, they will write that review for you, and they will call you back again? So, to use COVID as an excuse is very short-sighted.
It truly is. I'm thinking about it. I have friends that do very well, collect a lot of great reviews, great feedback from people. It's a tremendous platform that we have today that wasn't available. Again, as we discussed, it'd be somebody saying, I talked to Marge. Marge said, you're great. That's how it was. Now, at least they can get the information from somebody they see online, the feedback. But it's amazing to me, companies' excuses, and it's a total bullshit excuse. I have no other way to say it for companies to say, "Oh, I don't want to send out, feedback forms. I don't want to send out review forms about my crew. I'm too worried they're going to give me a 2-star review." What the hell's wrong with you if you're worried about your company getting a 2-star review? And I get it. I have one customer in the greater New York City area, and that was his excuse. And I said, that's the dumbest. I won't even use the words I used, excuse I have ever heard. It's an excuse. That's it. There's no reason for it. If you're concerned that your guys are going out into a home and are giving 2-star service, and dude, come on, man, look in the mirror. You own this company. Take control of it, change it around. If you can't change around that culture, then change them and start from scratch. But you can't allow this to keep going down. Company like myself and friends and people that I know will come into your market and demolish you just because we're willing to do what the customer wants. It doesn't mean the customer's right. It doesn't mean the customer's always right,
Mhm.
but it means we made a commitment. If we met the expectations, we go in and do a job, and say Mrs. Smith's home, and I'm going in, I'm going to clean her tile and grout, as an example. And I tell her it's going to look brand new. Okay. But then there's these choppy little lines all over. Well, now I tell her, well, Mrs. Smith, did you use any bleach on the? Yes, I use bleach. Well, it etches the grout line. It causes imperfections into it. I may be technically 100% right, but what am I doing? I'm making an excuse for not giving the level of service or commitment I gave to the customer ahead of time. I don't understand, or again, people I know that are successful in the service business that run many multi-truck units out on the road, get that you have to provide that. You have to put it out there. And if somebody's not happy with you, fix it.
Mhm. Well, yeah, and so, when it comes to your attention, sure, the first thing you want to do is own it, take responsibility, apologize, and then fix it. But let's go back a little bit, because how do we avoid getting complaints to begin with? And so, you talk a lot about, when there were no computers and there were no reviews. And, I call that BC, right? Before computers, it was word of mouth. And you relied on word of mouth to help you grow your business. Now we're relying on perfect strangers to give us suggestions and recommendations of who to use, and more importantly, who not to use. And so everybody has, one of these things, which I call a weapon. And this weapon can be used against your company, because, while the technician is in my house, or if he's, sitting, outside in his truck, I have the ability to post a review that could be a verbal, it could be a video, it could be pictures, and I'm so powerful as a customer. And so you alluded to the fact that, some business owners are concerned that their employees are not going to get those 5-star reviews. Well, you've got a big problem, because if you're sending out employees out into people's homes and businesses, and you're not confident that this employee is going to represent your business in the best light possible and do the proper service and provide that outstanding experience, don't be sending those employees out, because it's a crapshoot whether or not they're going to be on that day and how the customer is going to feel about the experience.
100%. So I saw this on one of your, and I thought this was brilliant. By the way, I'm not a flattering kind of person, but I thought this was brilliant. In your book, you have Rant and Rave, and I think it was, I saw it. Rant has more of a temp mentality, which means I am not going to make this my career. I don't care about it. I'm only going out there because I had to get a job, or I just go through job to job to job because I hate everything, whatever that happens to be. Where Rave has a long-term perspective outlook on a career, a different mindset. And I'll get into the sense of ownership a little bit later on, but I thought that was brilliant. You have two different characters in that book, um, of Rave and Rant.
Yes.
And I
And
remember the book Raving Fans. Obviously, you do too as well. It was a
sure.
brilliant book, a small little book, but
Mhm.
it's a classic. It's a legend, and it's about how to make people raving fans by giving them exactly what they expect to have. Can you go a little bit deeper into Rave and Rant?
Yes, I certainly can. And so, my co-author Carol Hetty and I, when we got together and started talking about writing a book, we had both had really good experiences and really bad experiences as customers. And we realized that who is taking care of us was going to determine whether we had a good or a bad experience. And so we had actually modeled Rant and Rave after some characters that were in Highlights magazine. I don't know if you were a reader of Highlights magazine years ago in the dentist office. Well,
Yes, I
there was
was.
a comic strip called Goofus and Gallant. And Goofus was the kid who, broke the vase from, hitting it with a baseball and was like, I don't know what happened. Whereas Gallant was the one who said, oh, Mom, I was playing baseball in the house and I accidentally broke the vase. And so we kind of modeled Rant and Rave after that. Rant is the employee who's just there for a paycheck, doesn't really care if the customer becomes a customer, stays a customer. Oh, look, it's 5 o'clock. I have to go home now. Whereas Rave may have the same job title, same function, get paid the same amount of money, but this employee is engaged, is committed and is thinking and acting like an owner of the business without being the owner of the business. And so to contrast those two employees in whatever function it is, whether it's talking to a customer on the phone, going into a customer's home, handling a customer complaint, the difference in how the issue is handled is either going to determine whether the customer is ranting about the bad experience that they had with you or raving about the good experience that they had with you. So rant and rave, we're going to turn your rants into raves, meaning your employees that are ranting into, that are rant-like into employees that are rave-like. And at the same time, we're going to turn your customers' rants into your customers' raves so that you get those glowing reviews that you were talking about earlier.
Absolutely. Much of the workforce today, primary workforce, and people complain about them, and they get bagged on way too much. It's just true. I've managed more millennials than probably any over my career. It's just been a lot of people in that age group. And what I found is they really the bonus if you know how to work with them correctly. And I learned this from Simon Sinek, which it was brilliant. He has a great YouTube video out there that talks about it in detail. But it's really about they want purpose, they want meaning, they want to know they're making a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody has weaknesses, everybody has strengths. So forget about the weaknesses, because if you're going to gripe on everybody's not doing this, they're this, they're this, they're this, you're not going to you're not managing anybody. You're complaining. You're not a good manager. You're not an effective leader. But if you take the person and you say, okay, Jimmy is really good at teaching people how to add on services ethically and
Mm-hmm.
honestly in a home.
Sure.
Roger is really good at checking in the trucks, making sure the trucks are in good shape, making sure the trucks are stocked up. Bob is a really good customer service trainer. He's really good at engagement and can really tell a great story with customers. Why do people they treat employees like, frankly, like a customer? Every customer is different. Every customer has different ideas, a different philosophy, a different thought process when it comes to how something's going to be. I'm a person that expected this to be here and can't figure out why they can't get it here in a timely manner. Other
Mm-hmm.
people are like, yeah, what are you going to do? And they're probably right. I'm not that guy. I'm atypical Northeast. I'm just that person. So when I spend the money and don't question it, and you say to me, I'm going to have something, that's the person I am. So that's my weakness. I don't have necessarily the ability to do that, but I'm different than, say, other people are. Employees are different from each other, just like customers are different. Customer A might think the job I did is remarkable, and I'm looking at it going, God, it looks horrible. But there's nothing I can do about it. I did a job today where I went, she's like, oh, it looks so much better. The carpet looks cleaner. This carpet was shot. It was gone. But she thought the job was amazing. I thought the job looked terrible. Now, I
Right.
knew I couldn't do anything different. I'm pulling out commercial cleaning agents I never use in a home to try and make the difference. Clean 2-3 times. I'm like, I can't do anything more here. Her perception was it looked great.
Right.
So every customer is different. Every employee is different. Why do people focus on developing their frontline employees, the people that are talking to their customers, that are dealing with them, like they're one box? They're one molded box. They're
Mm-hmm.
not different. I think when people are going to expect good customer service and good client service, because you want a client ultimately, you don't want just a customer that's transactional. You want somebody that really believes in you and gives you the opportunity over and over again. Why do people treat the employees? Why do owners tend to treat employees like they're all the same person?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And when you talk about rant and rave, I want to just mention that rant and rave are the employees, and they can demonstrate the rant behavior or the rave behavior. And so are the owners and the leaders and the managers. They also can role model positive behavior by being rave, or they can demonstrate negative behavior by being rant. So imagine one of your employees, doesn't do something right, or they forgot to do something, and you say to that employee, "Hey, Joe, what are you, an idiot?"
Mhm.
Well, if Joe was engaged, it's going to tank, and it's going to lose all the warm fuzzy feeling that he had about the company, about the customer. And so I'm not saying that we don't need to have coaching conversations with our employees. However, there's a way to have a conversation with somebody where you don't make them feel like garbage. And so your employees, like your children, are watching everything you do and everything you say, and they're taking their cue from you. So if you want your employees to act like Rave and be engaged and committed and go above and beyond to delight your customers, it's really important that the way that you treat your employees is in that same manner. And so we've got to know that they're always watching us. Imagine a business owner gets on the phone with a customer, and the customer is upset, and the business owner is not really being very nice to that customer. What they're showing the employee who might be listening or watching this interaction is customers aren't important. I don't have to treat them nice. And so, in my book, Turning Rants into Raves, there's a lot of mirrors. And the reason that there's mirrors in the book is because as leaders, owners, managers, we need to look at ourselves in the mirror and see how it is that we're showing up at work, because you can't expect your employees to act like Rave when you're acting like Rant. So I hope I answered. Well, I don't know that I answered your question per se, but yes, employees are individual, and just like we don't want to treat every customer the same because they have different needs, wants, expectations, we don't want to treat our employees the same way also. However, we do need to treat them as if they are human beings with needs, just like our customers. And so a good rule of thumb is treat your employees the way you want your employees to treat your customers.
Absolutely. And that just parlays right into my next question. You talk about a sense of ownership. Now, I've heard this many, many times over the years. People I've worked for have said it to me. And to me, it impacted on a very positive level because I want to take a sense of ownership, whether I was a technician, senior technician, lead technician, running the company, whatever that happened to be. I always wanted to have that because it's a sense of pride. Forget about just a
Mhm.
sense of ownership. It's a sense of human pride, your own personal behavior. Again, that's why I parlay to the millennial generation, because they have that. Generally, they want to make that difference onto it. But teaching an employee, another associate, somebody that works for an organization, like a sense of ownership, and teaching them that, and expecting them to have a sense of ownership when the owner has no sense of anything.
Mhm.
And then everything is top down, so we all
Sure.
know how things roll. Things roll
Mhm.
downhill when the owner or manager is ineffective. And I've seen this, and I've worked with organizations where I've had to tell the owner, your manager you love sucks, and I'm going to tell you why he sucks. And I says, everybody's entitled to a bad day. Everybody's entitled to things that go wrong. I have bad days. You have bad days. Everybody has a bad day. But if I'm there 4 or 5 times in a row, and this guy's just barking orders at people, he's not managing. He's barking. You might as well have a megaphone in front of his mouth going, I mean, it's just, it doesn't do anything. That sense of ownership that an employee has when you get an effective leader. I always say a manager is an effective leader. If you have poor leadership skills, you cannot be a good manager. You
Mhm.
have no sense of leading and growing and maintaining. I work for a large carpet cleaning franchise, and when I got there, I was with them for a number of years, and I got the opportunity to run the company. At the time, we went from about $770,000 a year to about 1.2 million in a year. I did a couple things different. The owner of the company moved to Texas. He was out of the area, which was perfect because if I'm going to make a difference, I don't want to be micromanaged at the same time.
Sure.
He might have great input, and I can get him on the phone. He can see things, and we can talk and see numbers in real time. So we can do that. But the micromanagement was out of the playing field, so to speak. We grew it with a couple of key things. Number one, I wanted to change the whole culture. He was a brilliant numbers person, but not the best communicator. So he would come in and bark. And I call it bark because that's what it is. I have a dog. I love my dog. I just don't love when my dog barks. Other than that, the dog is awesome. And I treat an owner of a company or the leader, the top end leader, as the same person if they're barking. And that was the biggest feedback. So I wanted to change that culture. Not that I wanted to put him in a different spot or put him different. He owns the company. It's obviously his business. But when they're there, what I found worked really good is figuring out, okay, listen, Things are going to change. This is how they're going to change. I'm going to hold you accountable just like anything else. If you
Mhm.
do great, I'm going to praise you. If you don't do great, I'm going to kick you.
Mm.
And I'm not going to kick you in a way that I'm physically going to kick you. I'm going to kick you in order to motivate you to do it better. I'm not one of those guys. I want to give you every opportunity to make sure you can succeed, you can grow, and make money here. So you took on almost this role of a manager by day, therapist by night, because I remember sitting on the back of the dock. We had this ramp that went up, and at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock, we might have worked from 7 to 7, 7 to 8. These guys were shot. They had a bad day, things were going wrong, and I had to listen and mentor and give advice to people.
Mhm.
That was a leadership skill. Now, back then, I didn't know it. I just thought it was the right thing to do because they're having a bad day. I like them. If it was Tony, if it was whoever it was, Tony would have a bad day and he'd come back all frustrated. And you go, Tony, why are you frustrated? And Tony would tell me the story of why he's frustrated. And he's ready to quit. He's this. I can't deal with this anymore, blah, blah, blah. And you find out what's going on with Tony. Chances are it had nothing to do with the job, had to do with something that came in at home.
Right.
But you have to be able to find out what that is. You don't have to get into too many details. That's their life. However, you still got to be there and you got to be able to find out what's going on, try to remold it and change it, and empower them to grow. And if they're the frontline people out there and they're having a bad day at home, guess who gets the wrath of the bad day? It's not even really the office, it's the customers they go into.
Yeah.
So I know this is probably, I ask some questions that probably a normal person doesn't ask. I try to really get it down to the point. If you're having a bad day as a leader, as a top end leader, manager, whatever that is, you can't expect your guys to have a bad day. We can't have bad days. If I'm having a bad day with management, I'm doing this, I can't let Jimmy or Rick or Bob's bad day affect the whole crew.
Sure.
It's got to be, okay, listen, we got to figure out what's going on. I'm going to talk to Jimmy, Bob. I'm not ever going to call somebody out in front of other people. I never believed in that, never did that.
Great.
I would praise you in public, but I would never blame you in public. I would talk to you one on one because I think that's degrading, belittling, and I wouldn't want it done myself. So they're really doing that bad of a job, they probably shouldn't be there in the first place. So my job as a leader is to make sure they're out there doing those things. Customer service, them getting the frontline employees, them getting the frontline people out there to deal with those customers. I really felt that if the culture is good, the results are good.
Mhm.
If the culture was poor, then the results were poor. And you had to look at yourself, like you said before, look in the mirror and say, okay, who's to blame for this today? Yep,
Yeah.
it's me. I'm
Yeah.
definitely the one. Yep, that's it.
Yeah. What am I doing that is either, inspiring the employees or demotivating the employees? And you alluded to it before, but one of my favorite sayings, Rob, is the fish stinks from the head down. And so, if the leadership or the management is weak, doesn't have good communication skills, doesn't relate and connect to the employees as human beings, there's a good chance that the culture is going to stink as well. And so, the culture starts at the top. And, I talk to a lot of employees as I go into businesses and work with them, whether it's the inside staff or the outside people that are going out into the field. And, what I hear are things like, oh, the owner comes in and he, just walks right past everybody, doesn't say good morning. And it makes them feel like they're not important. And, there's no reason for that. And so could you imagine if one of your employees went into a customer's home and didn't say hello and didn't tell them what they were doing? You would be aghast at that, and yet you're doing the same thing to your employees that you wouldn't want them to do with the customers. So again, the fish stinks from the head down.
And it truly does. It truly does. What are some of the things, advice you can give to, obviously it's mostly service businesses, and again you have the experience with that.
Mhm.
I know a business is a business is a business, but they do have some definite definitions, I guess the word would be. What is some of the things you can suggest to a person that is saying, okay, this is a new year, this COVID is going to go away, it's been a nightmare, we've all dealt with it, we're strong, we're Americans, most of the people listening to this podcast are here in America, they do listen all over the world, but generally the United States. So it's going to go away. It's going to stop being a dominant factor. It's always going to be part of our life, I feel, in the future. It's just it's changed things. but we can't make it an excuse anymore. We can't say, well, I'm understaffed because of COVID. Okay, so if you're in my business, there's a chance. For example, one of our technicians called me yesterday and said, I was exposed to somebody. Stay home. And it changed my day dramatically to where was messaging, calling, and Monday always kind of sucks in the first place, and then you just add that compounding effect to it. But you
Right.
just roll with it and say, okay, I can't have you in here until you're cleared. You got to get 2 tests. I'm not going to hold you to 14 days. I'm going to pay you anyway for the time you were here because it's not your fault. You didn't go out of your way to do it. However, I can't have you here because even though you're wearing a mask and the likelihood is small, there's still a risk. There's still a
Yeah.
chance. And I need to sleep at night and know our customers are safe, that people hire our company, they're going to be safe. But this is going to go away at some point. We're all going to get vaccinated. I just got my first vaccine the other day. Whether you're for it or not, it's just going to be part of society going forward because we're going to come out of this. And it's a down market. It's not a down market because it was a market that naturally went up and down. It's a down market because a pandemic happened. So it's going to slingshot, I feel, quickly. And one of the things I think that owners are, if you're not preparing for it, and I'm just speaking on my end of it, if you're not preparing to over deliver excellent customer service, it's going to be, I hate to say it, a bloodbath. You're not going to survive because this COVID is going to change. So the excuse, oh, this is this, I can't get parts and I can't get this. And people are going to get sick of excuses. They're already sick of it now.
Sure.
You think your customers going forward are going to put up with, well, Jimmy couldn't come in today. That's not their problem.
Right.
If Jimmy couldn't come in, if Bob couldn't come in, if you're 3 people down, it sucks. Here's when you become a natural leader and a manager and you call people, you fall on your own sword and explain to them exactly what happened. I did it, and I said, listen, he's not exposed to us. We didn't see him. We all work in our own trucks. It's fine, but he's not here. And this is the reason I can't necessarily get to you today because I have to have the jobs that we have on the books done first before this. So we got to communicate that to people. But the excuse needs to stop. It's going to change. It's going to go back. And my business is 2 years and 8 months, essentially. Has about 340 4.9 star reviews. I can't make everybody happy. I try. You can't. And it benefits us greatly. I send things out. If I get bad feedback, it comes back to me immediately and says, listen, this customer's putting a review and it's not that great. Maybe you want to fix it before it ends up on Google, ends up on whatever. And we do. Not everything could be perfectly planned. We do try to execute things in a systematic, orderly manner where but we're human. Things are going to happen and we're not going to meet the mark with everybody. Customer service, expecting that, oh, well, is okay, is a recipe for death, in my opinion, of a business.
Yeah. Well, you asked me what are some things that, companies can do. So, number one, take a look at yourself in the mirror, make sure that you're, walking the talk and modeling the behavior that you want your employees to demonstrate. Your employees are human beings and they're people, and they need to be treated as such. I think that a lot of times employees know instinctively that when they're dealing with external customers, they need to act a certain way. And yet when they're dealing with internal customers, meaning the other employees, the people in the office, let's say, it's like all bets are off, and the professionalism and the niceness and the courtesy go out the window. I've worked with a lot of service-based businesses, and in particular, I'm recalling an exterminating company that I was working with, and a job came in late in the afternoon, and the office needed to, assign the job to a technician. And so she called, this guy, and he's like, oh, geez, like, I don't want to do that. And, what do you keep calling me and giving me these jobs for? I want to go home. And, he's giving her such a hard time. And all she's doing is trying to, get the customer, keep the customer, make the customer happy. And she's getting a lot of grief from the internal employee. Now, imagine she then has to go back on the phone and call the customer and whether she says, yeah, I couldn't get anybody to cover the job. But because she took a lot of grief from the technician, some of that grief is going to rub off on her and go back to the customer. The other side of that is if he does wind up taking the job, but he's kind of annoyed about it. When he gets out there, is he going to be engaging to the customer, or is he going to rush through the job and do it as quick as possible because he doesn't want to be there to begin with?
Right.
And does he think he's really going to be doing a good job of hiding it from the customer? Because the customer is going to know. And so those are the kind of things we need to look at how we're talking to each other, because we're all on the same team. Our paychecks are all signed by the same people. And if all of us are engaged and committed and thinking and acting like owners of the business, there's going to be more teamwork, there's going to be more camaraderie. And instead of, oh God, what do you want now? It's going to be like, hey, what's going on? How can I be of service? What can I do? How can I help grow the business? And so it's important that behind the scenes, the communication is good and the processes are benefiting the customer. Because oftentimes, we have these policies, right? And, anytime a company has ever quoted their policy to me, they're kind of spitting on me because they're so emphatic about it. And so policies are designed to protect the company. And so if you're trying to protect the company from your customer, are you really customer centric? So I'd like you to take a look at what some of the verbiage is that you're using, and think about what is better verbiage to use so that you're not turning off your customers, and even more so that you're not turning off your employees.
I think about it, and I use this a lot as an example. I'm a big sports fan, Steelers fan, and I love sports in general. But I like the sports aspect of teamwork. I've played sports. I've played some competitive sports, and there's a teamwork mentality. My wife is a huge fan of Tom Brady. Now, she's a huge fan of Tom Brady from Michigan before Tom ever went and got drafted to the Patriots in like the 10th round or something. The greatest athlete of all time was drafted like the 10th round. But they built up a culture in that place of performance. Now, on a football team, or basketball team or hockey team, you have starters. The starters are your top performers, period. That's why they got the starting lineup. And then the other people below them are still very, very important, very effective. They are the starters of tomorrow. They're not necessarily maybe the people that are starting today, but they're starting tomorrow. You can't look down on people, and you really said it very, very well. You can't look down on somebody because they are not necessarily at the performance level. I used to deal with people that would take whatever jobs and work till 9 o'clock at night, never said a word. I had people at 4 o'clock, they wanted to be off the clock and done. They wanted nothing else. They didn't want to hear anything else. But I always used the team mentality and said, do I have my starter? Are you a starter, or are you a second string? Are you a third string?
Mhm.
What do you want to be? If you're a third string guy, that's fine. I need to manage you like you're a third string guy and treat you with the respect, but you're a third string guy. You don't want to be a starter on the team. And that's okay. Not everybody wants to start. Some people just want to go through life, but you still have to be able to communicate effectively. You can't look down at that third string person or second string person saying, you're not a starter on the team, so you don't know what you're doing and you're lazy and you're this and that. And that's what you get in a lot of companies. You get these starting lineup performers, and then you get the second string and the third string. And third string people, again, they are what they are. You still need to work together to be able to adjust a common goal. When you play sports, and I always loved when people either were in the military or played competitive sports, because they got the team mentality.
Mhm.
There was no, the coach would cut you in a hot second if you didn't show up for practice, or you weren't there on time, or you didn't put 110% into what you were doing. He cut you.
Yeah.
She cut you. Wouldn't make a difference. Work is no different. Everybody there goes out like an athlete to do the job, to perform at top level service. Some people are A-list, A performers, some people might not be. But you can always, and I found this many times, you can always turn a C performer, B performer, or second or third string person into a frontline person, into a starting lineup person, if you treat him with respect.
Mhm.
And you got a lot. And I honestly got a lot. I mean, when I started my own business, they all came running. But I always treated them with the respect that I wanted me to be treated. It didn't mean, I was going to be this pushover guy. I'm certainly not. I always said, I appreciate you showing up every day. Our customers love it. You're showing up and you're doing a great job, but people do not pay us to show up. They pay for a result. They don't pay us for effort. Effort
Right.
doesn't matter. Effort means you came up, you drank coffee, you showed up, you got in the truck. You pulled the carpet cleaning wand to the house and you stopped.
Mhm.
That's effort. They don't pay us for that. They pay us for result. They pay us for a clean carpet in an efficient amount of time at the right price. That's what they pay us to do.
Mm.
I think it
Well,
all has to do with a lot of communications, like you said, from that get-go, and how people are on the same page and understanding which person they're talking to and how they're effectively communicating these skills to get them when they're out there in the front line and talking to people, how they're doing that.
mhm. Yeah, I like to look at employees like a piece of clay. And, as a manager, all I want to do is get near them and, go like this and mold them and shape them into the person that I want them to be, or the employee that I want them to be, or the technician that I want them to be. But often things get in the way. I'm putting out fires all day long. And so, like a piece of clay, if you leave a clay out and don't touch it for a while, it's going to get hard. And once it gets hard, it's not malleable and you can't really mold and shape anymore. And so our employees need that molding and shaping from you so that you can turn that C player into a B player and the B player into an A player. But you can't expect that without any nurturing, without any training, without any building up of um, what's the word that I'm looking for? Pride and ownership in what you do. Your employees are going to get stale, and they're going to be that rant employee who is not going to go above and beyond and isn't really going to care if the customer writes a crappy review because they're not engaged.
Right.
And so, if your employees are not engaged, you need to look at yourself in the mirror, and I literally walk around at my training sessions with a mirror and hold it up. Take a look here, because the only thing that's in your way of being a better leader is you. The only thing that's in your way of being a better employee and representative of your company is you. And we make decisions many times a day as to who we're going to show up as. You talk about rant and rave. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to be nasty to customers today. I'm going to show up late for my job. I'm going to make sure my truck has no supplies in it. Like, we don't have that mindset, but yet things happen during the day, whether it's traffic, whether it's my alarm didn't go off, whether it was the office yelled at me about something, whether the customer was upset because the expectations or the communication from the office wasn't good. And so in those moments when things are coming at us, that's when we have to decide, who am I showing up as? Who's going to be, showing up at the front door at that customer's house? Who's going to be answering the telephone? Is it going to be rant because I'm letting all the other things, the minutia, get in my way? Or is it going to be rave, who says, you know what, I'm a representative of this business. I want the customer to be happy. I want them to, feel good about hiring us. And I want them ultimately to write a good review, to refer us, and to call us back. And so I have that capability 99% of the time to make that decision who I'm going to be. But it's constant. You can't just make it in the morning. Oh, today's going to be a great day. No, because things are going to happen. And you need to kind of be able to move and kind of, gel with what's going on and not take things personally.
100. You just said something so profound. Not take things personally, because it is a business, and you can't control what you can't control. You can't worry about what you have no impact on. Randi, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate today. How can our listeners get more information from you? Say they need to have a real rehab of customer service, and I say that because I know a few. And how can they have that complete rehab of redoing the culture of their company? They could be a small couple truck company, they could be a corporation, whatever it happens to be. But how do they find out about you?
Sure. So certainly visit my website. So the company name is Workforce Development Group, and the website is workdevgroup.com. Or you can give me a call. My phone number is 516-578-8806. And another way to, kind of tap into my resources is to buy a copy of my book. And it's called Turning Rants into Raves, and it's available on Amazon. I also have a lot of free resources on YouTube. If you go to my YouTube channel, which is Randi, Randi, Busse, Busse, you're going to find videos on things like dealing with customer complaints, thinking like an owner, telephone etiquette, just to name a few.
Very good. I appreciate it. By the way, before we leave, what made you get out of Long Island? I know what made me get out of Long Island in particular and go. You're in South Carolina, correct?
Recently relocated to South Carolina, Hilton Head, which is also known as Paradise.
Right.
It could be the 75-degree weather that we had today. It could be the birds chirping in my backyard or the alligator in my lagoon. It's just a different way of life. The good news is that the internet and technology has made it very easy to be able to do my business and provide training and coaching remotely. So it doesn't matter where you are, unlike your business where you literally have to go into somebody's home, until they figure out how to remotely clean carpet, you got to be where your customers are. But for me, I can be anywhere.
Absolutely. And I know that from this side of the business, I've got a digital mixer, a laptop, and I've got extra stuff all over the place here that I don't necessarily need. I have a camera that's up here in the front, but it all can go in a container, like two packages, and it's on the road with me. I'm actually going to Charleston to a conference latter part of April, and I'm looking forward to it. But that's what I'm going to be doing, interviewing and connecting with a bunch of people. So I'll have a whole bunch of podcasting stuff to come up. But I've been featured. I'm coming up as a guest, so I appreciate that. Randy, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And again, I'm going to put everything in the show notes here. Make sure you reach out to Randy, ask her to help rehab your business, because going out of this right now, we've all gotten a little lackadaisical, we'll call it lackadaisical, and just kind of let things go. And the people that are capitalizing upon doing the job right, caring about the customer, caring about the customer's concerns, and over delivering on their great customer service are going to win. And it's a tremendous ability to grow your business away from your competition, because it's not something everybody's willing to do.
Yep.
It's
And
that
I'll leave,
simple.
yep, and I'll just leave you with this last thought. And it's not anything that you haven't heard before, but if you don't take care of your customers, your competitor will.
It's very, very true. Very, very true. I'm sure I've probably lost a few, but I have gained a lot more. That rate of attrition has definitely much lower. But I mean, I've seen it. I hear from people who'll call and say, "Hey, I had so and so company." Not like I need to know that, but they're like, "I had them, and they were either lousy from the get go, or I used them for years, and then they changed the sauce." It's one of those deals. So, you got to maintain it, and it's not something you stop. It's not something you say. It's not like I forget what the definition was about marketing. It's not an event. It's a process. That's what it is. And
Sure.
everything you do when it comes to customer service is a process. It's not, let's get somebody in here and go, come on, Jimmy. That's gone. That's gone. You need to make sure that you're over delivering every time, every situation in
Yeah.
order to win. Thank you so much again, Randy. I really appreciate it. And we will see you on the next podcast. Again, endorsed by sotellus.com/Rob Lyon. You can get an incredible deal from them when it comes to maintaining a review management software. Again, they are the Cadillac. I use them in my business. I happen to love them. I know them, family-owned business. Do a great job. And just like we're talking about right now, they give me great customer service. I stick by them. They're great. I could do cheaper. I don't care. I want the best. Have a good day, guys.